and sends a letter back immediately to Switzerland saying, yeah, sorry, no. Then they send it off to Byron's publisher, John Murray. Well, John Murray likes it. He likes the book. He thinks it's pretty good. Still, no one knows who it's by, but it's being sent out by Percy Shelley. Murray reads it. He likes it. He thinks it's probably, got potential. But Murray has a friend, a really conservative friend, somebody who hates Shelley, hates all of the romantics, hates all of the young socialists. And he basically, tells Murray, you publish this book, and it's sacrilegious, it's blasphemous, it's vulgar, it's got all this terrible stuff in it. It's going to be connected to Shelley. Shelley is, he's a disgusting reprobate. He ran off with Godwin's daughter, and all, So Murray listens to this friend, and he sends a rejection. So now they've been rejected by two of the publishers that they kind of hoped were a sure thing. Neither one has been. And, things aren't so hunky-dory. The family's kind of down about it. Mary's not real happy about it. And this collection, that a lot of this stuff comes out of, the Leigh Hunt collection. Leigh Hunt was a writer at the same time as all of these other people. He was mainly a critic. He had his own literary magazine. Over the course of a lifetime, he had a number of literary magazines. So his own writing was not necessarily bad or considered bad. He just wasn't considered to be, one of the greats or someone with the divine spark. But, he was respected. He was really respected. He was also just like the worst person with money. And they were always dead broke. He was always one step ahead of debtor's prison and was constantly taking handouts of money from everybody he knew, everyone that he could touch, And he was really funny about it, too, because he didn't like the fact that they were giving him money to be part of the conversation or part of anything. So people would come to his house, and when it seemed like it was the end of the visit, he would walk away. And then they would take the money that they were going to give him, and they would leave it on the mantelpiece for him to find after they had left. And we know this because we have a letter from one of Leigh Hunt's friends talking to another friend, describing what this process was like of giving money to Leigh Hunt. But Leigh Hunt was a very, very good friend of Percy Shelley's. And Leigh Hunt's wife, Mary Ann, became a really close friend of Mary Shelley's. So this letter in Mary Shelley's hand, this letter is a letter from Mary Shelley to Mary Ann Hunt. And in it, you can tell that there's been a letter that's preceded this one from Mary Ann. They're doing a lot of talking about their pregnancies. They're doing a lot of talking about the difficulties with their pregnancies, how they're all broke. They have no money. And wouldn't it be great if, we could have somebody to come in to help with the chores, or so they're talking about, the difficulty of getting good help or getting any kind of help. At one point, Mary says, I'm enclosing, and I think it's £5 or I'm enclosing a little money for you. And then she kind of wraps up. Well, what I like to imagine, because I don't always have to deal in facts, what I like to imagine is that she's writing this letter. And this is something that Mary Shelley's doing all the time, because on top of everything else that she's doing, she has a huge correspondence and is writing letters every day. So she's writing the letter, and Percy Shelley walks in, and Percy says, "Oh, who are you writing to?" And Mary says, "I'm writing to Mary Ann." And Percy says, "Oh, well, when you're done, could I tack a few lines on?" And she says, "Of course." So when you look at the letter, you can see that actual place. And when you're looking at these things, we don't ask people to wear white gloves here in special collections. There are philosophies about this. We only ask people to use gloves when they're working with photographs. So you just need to be delicate, and you can turn the other pages, but you can certainly look at these. But you can see where Mary signs off affectionately, MWS. They're so formal. They always call each other by their last names. They always sign, they don't sign, Mary. She doesn't sign, this is her really good friend. But she's still MWS. She's always MWS. The same way that Percy is always his initials. The same way her father, when her father signs his letter, he doesn't say your father or father. No, he signs it W. Godwin.
I like that Percy's initials are PBS.
But Godwin, affectionately yours, W. Godwin. But that's the time. So there's the PBS. There's Percy's. So Percy tacks all of this on. Remember what I was saying about he starts to run out of ink? Then he puts that quill back into the ink. And so you can see that in the letter every time they go back to the inkwell. And these are all transcribed. So you can actually look at the letter and, to see that I'm not lying and that it's a real letter from the early 19th century. But then you can go right to the transcription. So when you go to the transcription, what you see is what Percy tacks on. Percy says, I will write Hunt. This is her husband. He doesn't say Lee, I'll write Lee tomorrow. No, he's writing to his wife, and he says, I will write Hunt tomorrow or the day after. Meanwhile, kindest remembrances to all, and thanks for your dream in my favor. Marianne must have meant some dream about Shelley in that other letter. Your incantations have not been quite powerful enough to expel evil from all revolutions of time. Here's the important part. Yeah, right? Here's the important part. Poor Mary's book came back with a refusal, which has put me rather in ill spirits. Does any kind friend of yours, Marianne, know any bookseller or has any influence with one? Any of those good-tempered Robinsons? And he's alluding to another publisher. All these things are affairs of interest and preconception. You have seen Clark about this loan, and all these letters back and forth, they're always about money. Money, 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 money. And that letter, the essay by William Godwin about the elopement, he can only write about the elopement for so long. And then he goes into this long section about this much money was owed to me by this guy, and he only paid me back this much, and now I have this much, and I owe you this much, and I did sign a note to you for this much, it's just this huge ledger of, people borrowing and lending, and you see Clark about this loan. Well, is there any proposal, anything in bodily shape? My signature makes any security, in fact, infallible, though not in law. Even if they would not take Hunts. So he's basically saying, if you guys can work it out somehow so that they'll be willing to give you this loan, I understand that, Lee's signature on any document is worthless. But maybe my signature will bring home the bacon. Even if they would not take Hunts. I shall have more to say on this the while, your faithful friend, PBS. But here we have it in a letter that they're having trouble with Mary's book. Well, finally, and I don't know exactly why, they send a letter to Lackington. And Lackington is a really interesting character.